Good morning. Welcome to the Center for Spiritual Living in Ukiah. My name is Gail Rhodes. I will be your presider and I will be doing the opening treatment. I am really happy that you have decided to join us today. I know that somewhere in the service, either in the beautiful music, the two treatments, opening and closing, and the message, you will find the exact reason why you're here today. So let's start with opening treatment. Take a deep breath. Settle in, close your eyes if that's comfortable for you. And just start the treatment by being present, being fully present, feeling that which is with us always. But in order to feel it fully, we need to bring it into focus, bring it into our body, and know that there is only one thing. That thing is God, and it is fully present at all times. And today, as we invite it into this service and we invite it into our lives, we know that all of it, the beauty, the love, the compassion, the joy, harmony, peace, the list goes on and on. I'm sure in your head, you are counting all the ways that God's presence makes our lives full and vital. And even during those times when we're having difficulties, that is when it is especially important to recognize and remember and know that that essence of God has its being in, around, and as us. So when we remember that the presence of God is centered in us, then everything shifts. And as we move through this morning and through our day, that wonderful, magnificent presence is fully visible to us, to everyone we come into contact with, and indeed the entire planet shifts and comes into agreement with what it is we are claiming here today. And what we are claiming is that God is good. We release this to the one mind, knowing that as we have set it in intention, it already is so. For that we are grateful. And together we claim it by saying, and so it is. So the next part of our service, I'm very excited about. We have not seen Cricket. We've decided for probably 3.5 years. Last time we saw her last time she was at our center, her 4-year-old son was just a baby. We got to see him for a moment there. That was really fun. Let me introduce Cricket. I have a short bio for her. Excuse the off camera. Joyfully Cricket is a certified ACC life and spiritual coach and very inspirational and wonderful singer-songwriter who helps her clients break through their blocks and develop the tools they need to discover and pursue their joyful purpose. Cricket's email address, if you would like to know more about her or participate in her spiritual coaching, her email address is joyfulpurpose.com. I know that I'm actually going to go visit it. I'm pretty excited about that. So Cricket, thank you for being with us today.
So happy to be here. Thanks, Gail. Here we go. Days they come and days they go. What you plant is what will grow. And you sow, go. And it goes, it goes, it goes. Something's gotta grow. So you want it all, give it all you are. So you know it all, give it all you are. Give it all you are. Lightning strikes and shakes us to the core, shifting life has not been done before. Tend the fire that burns within your soul. Trust yourself, you'll know, you'll know, you know. Love surrounds and overflows. The more I give, the more it shows. And it flows, it flows, it flows. Love is gonna grow. So you want it all, give it all you are. So you know it all, give it all you are. So you want it all, give it all you are. So you know it all, give it all you are. Give it all you are.
Oh, crickets. Yay. Thank you. Absolutely beautiful. It feels like you could sing in, oh, hi, Bonnie. It feels like you could sing anywhere. I loved the acoustics when you sang at church, and you sound absolutely just as beautiful. Thank you for gracing us. Come back and do it more often. And now it is time to introduce our speaker. We're excited about this also. Dr. Kenn Gordon is our speaker today. I have a short bio for him also. Dr. Kenn Gordon and his wife, Deborah, are the founding ministers of the Center for Spiritual Living in Kelowna, BC Canada. Thank you for being with us. Dr. Kenn retired from ministry in March 2020. Before retiring, he was not only the senior minister in Kelowna, he was also the president of RSI, pre-integration, for 5 years, and the spiritual leader of Centers for Spiritual Living, post-integration, for 8. Known for his quick wit, good stories, and constant sense of humor, Dr. Kenn is a popular speaker at CSL churches worldwide. He is an advocate for service, and his main adage is spend yourself. His topic today will be what's to come and how to make that happen. So thank you, Dr. Kenn, for being with us.
Thank you, Gail. I appreciate it. It's wonderful to be with you. I wish I were there in person. I was looking at you in the weather, and let's see, you're probably in the 60s right now, and that means warm. We had 24 below weather here last week, and I'm bumping icicles off the side of the house on a regular basis, and they're big ones too. So hopefully things are going to change, though, because I'm planning on getting on a plane on Wednesday and going to our annual conference in Indian Wells, Palm Springs. And let's know that works out okay, that with all of the restrictions, I get to get into your country and get out of my country and get back to my country, which is really what the case is every time we go anywhere or do anything. I was telling Gail and Mary earlier that, and Cricket, that I've been to your center several times. I love it. It's a beautiful little community. I think that it's one of the places that I would like to hide out during the pandemic, without a question. So I appreciate it. And I see some very, very familiar faces on the screen. Jack Hall, it's good to see you, my friend. It's been a while, without a doubt. I think both of us might have aged a little, but I'm guessing. And Candace, who I've seen once probably in 2 years. Are you going to the conference, Candace? Yes, good. Then we'll be there. Harry Morgan Moses sent me a meme the other day, and it was a glass, was a margarita, and on the thing it said the new COVID coffee. And it said, the only difference is this one's made with margarita mix, and oh yeah, there is no coffee. So I'm anticipating some nice sunshine and good comradeship when I get south, if I get south. So bless you for inviting me and bringing me into your home. I appreciate it immensely. Harry also sent me another meme, which really is the topic of my talk right now. The meme that he sent me was two little dogs talking together. And the one dog was saying, you know, aren't you concerned about what's going to happen in 2022 with everything that's going on and everything that's happening? What do you think is going to occur for this next year? And the other little dog said, flowers. And the other dog said, flowers? What do you mean flowers? Why flowers? And he said, because I planted them. And that's really what I want to talk about. I want to talk about how we plant our thoughts and put them into activity and action, and how we, of course, reap what we sow, as Cricket so beautifully pointed out in her song. It's peculiar, you know. Dr. Holmes, the founder of religious science, said that thought plus feeling equals manifestation. In other words, when we think something and then we add the feeling to it, it creates the experience of our life from that particular moment forward. And Jesse Jennings, in the latest Science of Mind magazine, just added to it a little bit. He said that thought plus emotion equals belief, and that belief becomes our reality. It becomes our experience. And that really is the truth that I'm discovering and continuing to discover and have discovered for the last 69 years. And I have to share that I'm an incredible storyteller, and not in a good way. I tell myself stories all the time. I'll give you the most recent application of it, or example of it, that I can think of. And it just came to light a couple of weeks ago when I was invited to dinner at a friend of mine's. Deb and I went over and had dinner with this other couple that we're quite close with. And what occurred was that for about 2 years solid, the husband and I played golf every single Friday. And we would have a good time golfing, and it seemed very, very adequate and appropriate. And then afterwards on Friday night, we would take the foursome that we had, we would put together a dinner, and we'd all go out for dinner with our partners. And we had an enjoyable recreation that took place. So it was nice, but something was occurring within our relationship as we were playing. And the gentleman that I'm talking about is a very, very good golfer. He used to play on, as a matter of fact, on the European tour. And so, you know, it's nothing for him to shoot his age of 74, and he was a very accurate golfer. Me, not so much. I'm kind of a duffer at the very, very best. I struggle with it. I'd even like to say I'm a good duffer, but I'm not. I'm just a terrible golfer, but I like going out. I like the companionship. I like the connectivity, and I like getting outside, especially during the pandemic, when golf was pretty much the only sport and the only thing that we could do. Is we would go out and walk around for 3 or 4 miles and play golf. So it was an enjoyable thing. But what occurred was last year, after 2 years of doing this, he told our foursome that he wasn't going to golf with us anymore, that he had other plans and he was going to do those, and that he wasn't going to participate with us in the golf in last year. And I got to tell you is that I immediately began making stories up. You know the stories. My observation is most of us have stories. And so I started to think about it, and I thought, the reason he's not playing is because I'm not good enough. The reason he's not playing with us is because I'm just not of the quality that he's used to playing with. And the other two that I play with are way better than I am, so they're okay with it. But this guy doesn't want to play with me because I slow him down or impede his progress. So I created that story last year, last April, and the year went on and he didn't golf with us. And funny things started to turn up. He would come to the center, for example, and we would never talk about golf. We would just avoid the subject whatsoever. And he seemed cool and standoffish to me. And so it was a peculiar feeling that I got. And so that just helped me build my story. It helped develop it. And then one day I was golfing on a Friday with my usual threesome now that had become a foursome. And one of our foursome said, "Oh yeah, I played with him the other day over at his club, and we had a really great time." And he's telling me all about it. And that just added to it. It added to, oh yeah, now he's playing with everybody in the foursome, but he won't play with me. Does any of this relate to you? Can you feel the sense of the storytelling that goes on? So I was quite pissed off. I was aggravated. This was not something that I was pleased with. And so what happened, of course, was every time I would come in contact with him, I would stay away from him a little bit more. I kind of withheld and withdrew from him. I've never been a terribly rude person, so I wasn't rude, but I could feel it. And when we did get called to be invited to do something with him and his wife, I would kind of hesitate, and to be honest with you, I would say rude things. I would say things like, "Oh yeah, right," and I began to rail against him and rail against it. So 2 weeks ago, we get invited over to his place for dinner, he and his wife. And so Deb and I go over and we're sitting and we're having a meal with them. And out of the blue, he says, I think next year we really should golf together more. And I said, but I thought you didn't like to golf with me because I wasn't good enough. And he looked at me and he said, no, not at all. He said, I just had my other membership. I wanted to play there. And besides, I thought you didn't want to golf with me because I was too competitive and too good. I said, no, actually, I always enjoyed golfing with you, although I will share as an aside that he intimidates the heck out of me. So my game was never as good as it could be when I played with him. I would play on a Wednesday and I'd play a decent round of golf and then play with him on Friday and it would all fall apart. So next year, this coming year, 2022, we're going to golf again together. But it was really remarkable to hear his story and my story and find out that both of them were just made up. Now, the reason that I bring this up and the reason I even talk about it is because that's an example of planting something that I don't want. And I will bet you that in most of our cases, that's what we've done in the past with someone, somewhere, somehow. I know that as a leader, as a spiritual leader, that on many occasions I've had conflict with people. And I know the solution to the conflict is always the same, and that's to arrange, if it's possible, to be able to sit with them. And what I found really works really well is just to go and to say to them, so what's going on? How about if I tell you my story and you tell me yours? My story is that when I needed you most, you bailed and abandoned me. Or maybe my story is, I thought you didn't enjoy me anymore. I thought that you thought I was out of integrity about something. Or maybe my story was, you know, I just thought that I'd done something incorrect that had hurt you. And what's your story? And inevitably what occurs, or what I found occurs, is that their story is absurd as my story. And the ability to be able to tell them and to be able to get it out and put it into the light opens the door for the healing that's required, so that we can understand each other and we can understand what's going on. Now, not everybody you come in contact with is available or wants to make themselves available to share their story. So you kind of have to develop and build something that allows that to happen. Or, as is the case often with me, I have to tell my own story to myself without having the benefit of hearing the story from someone else, without hearing how their view might be, and just being able to imagine what it is and realize that it's really got nothing to do with me. My very favorite title of a book that I've never read is a book by Terry Cole Whitaker that's called "What Other People Think of Me Is None of My Business." And you know, the challenge that I think most of us have in life is developing and setting ourselves up to understand and appreciate that, and not to develop and build a story that is negative in the response that we want to have. Now, when you look at our lives, you look at health, wealth, creative expression, loving relationships, you look at the areas that we have in our lives. What I find and what I discover is that I've got stories wrapped into all of them. The circumstances that I have, as Jesse Jennings says, is what I believe becomes my reality and becomes my truth. When I feed it and put the emotion and attach it to it, the end result is it really begins to look real. And then I get to build on it and to develop something larger in it. And some of us, myself included, have stories that go back from the day that we were born. We have stories about our parents. We have stories about our teachers. We have stories about our relationships. We have stories about our partners. We have stories about our friends, and we have stories about our enemies. And we built them all within the little cubicle and the little isolation point of our own being and our own thought and our own thinking, without really finding out what is happening and what's really true. Can everybody here think of maybe some incident where they have a story that's wrapped around it? Maybe there's some fraction or friction in your life somewhere. Maybe there's some confusion or frustration, or maybe there's just something you don't understand. I'll wager that your story isn't accurate. I'll wager your story around your health isn't real. I'll wager your story around your wealth isn't real. I'd wager that your story around your creative expression and the goodness of what you do in life isn't real. And I'd wager that your relationships, the stories that you built, aren't probably accurate. At least that's my demonstration for myself. So after this dinner that I had with them, it occurred to me that maybe perhaps I could start building stories that are beneficial to me. Maybe I could start building some stories for myself that are real. And that maybe sitting down and looking at what's going on in my life in things that look like they're frustrating, or in things that look like they're confrontational, is the first step for me to be able to understand that what I'm thinking and how I'm thinking it isn't accurate. It isn't real. So I look at this circumstance that we're moving into for 2022. And I don't know what it's like down there, but I can guess. We're pretty much being inundated with all kinds of new stuff. One of the things that I've discovered is that catastrophe builds industry. An example of that is TSA at the airport. An example of that is a medical system that is building itself up to take care of a pandemic, which I bless and I honor, just like I bless and honor the security at the airport. But it's amazing how when we begin to believe in it, we draw and attract everything that is necessary in our life in order to prove it to be the reality for ourselves. That in my particular case, what I actually find is that sitting alone for 2 years and thinking all by myself is that I don't get really the opportunity to develop a new story that is actually going to benefit me. A story about how financially well off I could be. A story about how healthy I could be and the vitality and the flexibility that I have in my life. A story about how blessed I am to have so many friends and so many loved ones that are constantly and consistently with me. A story about how just because I'm retired doesn't mean I don't have creativity and that I'm not doing something of value for myself and the world around me. So moving into 2022, and I'm not a person who does resolutions, and I am a person who does intentions, but I do intentions almost daily. So there's nothing new from the date January 1. It doesn't affect me. However, maybe perhaps there's some freshening that needs to take place in my circumstance coming up this year. Maybe it demands that I stop being frightened and stop believing in a lot of the stuff that I'm seeing, and instead start making up my own belief system. Start planting flowers instead of allowing the weeds that just blow in the wind to grow and to accumulate in the garden of my mind. So we find ourselves in a situation, or I find myself in a situation where I have to sit down and ask myself some real questions. And the questions that I choose to ask are questions is there really any truth or validity behind some of the stuff that I hold to be true? Deb and I, like I said, we're on our way to the conference in California. And I'm seeing people cancel out of it on a regular basis because of fear of Omicron, because of the influenza, and because of the aggravation and the grief that's involved with it. And I don't know what the rest of the world's thinking, but I certainly want to be cautious. But I know how to be cautious. And I know what I need to fear as opposed to what it is that is being fed to me as far as fear goes. And I find myself sitting at home sometimes being worried about developing an influenza or developing this pandemic within myself, catching the virus. Even though I don't go out, I don't do anything, I don't intermingle with people in a way that is destructive or harmful. And if I were to, I would do it with great caution and care. And yet somehow or other, it's developing and building. And I wish I could say that it was only the pandemic, but that's not true. It's also the pandemic that's taking place in politics. It's the pandemic that's taking place in our social arena. It's the pandemic that's taking place in the awakening of humanity, the recognition and the realization of the manifest beauty of our lives. So I speak for myself again. I don't want to lose those things. I don't want to lose that intention. And so I have to start looking at life from a different perspective in a different way. And, you know, I've always taught that I'm not frightened of hot things or fire, but I know well enough not to put my hand on a red hot burner on the stove. I have to be cautious. You have to be cautious. I teach my students that consciousness is everything, that what they believe and what they hold to be true becomes their reality and their experience. And that it's not wrong to be there or wrong to feel that way or think that way. That as a matter of fact, if you sit and think that you're going to step outside the front door of your house and get hit by a bus, my best advice for you is to leave by the back door. It's understanding and appreciating what our beliefs are. it's clarifying. It's bringing forward the story and understanding and appreciating what it is and what it's about. It's wrapping our heads around and appreciating the fact that we get to control our experience. I see that the pandemic in all those areas that I mentioned and then some. The pandemic in our belief system that's taking place is developing habits in me that I don't want to have because they're bad habits. They're not habits that give me freedom. They're habits that put me in a box of fear and put me in a box of anxiety that I would rather not be in. And once again, I'm not advocating that anyone just throw away caution to the wind. But what I'm saying is be really careful about the stories you're making within your own mind. Not just you, but our society. You know, I know that I'm talking to the cutting edge here and that most of you have already probably considered this and brought this into your own memory and your own mind in one way or another. And so I suppose what I'm most doing is encouraging you to continue to do that. Not to buy into the story, not just pandemic stories, but any story that you don't really know what the truth of it is behind it. We are the most creative individuals in the world. We have a magnificent ability for ourselves to be able to create worlds within our thinking and how they're going to demonstrate. And the proof of the pudding of how good a job we do is the demonstration of what we have in our life. If I look at all the things that I would condemn, or all of the areas in my life that perhaps I feel are less than fulfilling, I find that most of them are based and dependent upon a story that I've been working on for a long, long time. Our teaching teaches us that it's done unto us as we believe, and that our belief system is the most important aspect that we have. It's more important than what's going on politically. It's more important than what's going on socially. It's more important than what's going on physically. It really is the key and the seed that Cricket sang about that we sow. And so we get to genetically change it. That's the one thing that we have the power to do. I can't change the fact it's not COVID, it's just a cold. I can't change the fact of what's going on in the world, but I can change how I view it and what I look at it and the point of view that I see from it. It's time that we really step forward and step into the power that we have. William Meader, who was head of the School of Theosophy for years, said that there are three types of people in the world today. He said there are those who want it to be the way it used to be. They want it to go back to the way it was before. He said they will do everything and anything they can in their power to make that happen. They're very, very active in the idea of it, and they have their own story about what it's going to look like when it becomes their reality again. He said then there's another group of people who have just given up. They don't believe that they have any personal power whatsoever. They don't believe that they have any impress on the world around them. So they just take it as it comes. And he said there's a third group of people, and those are the ones that realize and understand that how they think and what they think about becomes their experience. And they are the ones with all the power. And he said that it's only a matter of time until we as a society get to build and develop that. And that group is the one that really makes the difference and makes the change. That group is those of us. And it doesn't have to have a title on it. It's not called New Thoughters or religious scientists or whatever. It doesn't have a name for it. It's people who are self-empowered. It's people who don't believe the stories that are being told to them. It's people who have the awareness to be able to look at the stories and make their own up and make a different case. You know, this year when I golf with my friend, I'm planning on not being intimidated by him and playing good golf, learning from him instead of being frightened of him. And it's time that we all do that. It's time that we find a way that we can tie that together for ourselves. 2022 has the potential to be the greatest year that we've ever had, just like 2021 was. There's a brightness that's taking place. You know, all of us here, certainly a lot of the people that I know, have been implanting and putting into mind an idea of a world that works for everyone for decades. And we got it from another group who had the same thought and the same idea. So now that it begins to manifest and show up in our lives, are we frightened of it? And sometimes we are. Sometimes I am, I'll speak for myself. Sometimes I look at the state of the economy and shake my head. Sometimes I look at the state of the world political realm and shake my head and say, this isn't working the way it used to. But that doesn't mean that that's real. It's a story. We were all blessed, and we were all blessed by the ability to be able to create an experience for ourselves. So when I have a health issue, I have to look at the story that I have behind it. When I have a mental issue, I have to look at the story that was created behind it. When I have a relationship issue, I have to look at what kind of story I'm creating around it. When I have any issue that's based on fear, I have to ask myself some basic questions. And that question is, what am I frightened of? What am I scared of? What do I believe that is allowing this to grow and to concentrate and to develop in my life? And the simple fact of the matter is that every time I do it, I can never come up with a decent answer for it. Every time I fall into it, I find myself without any solution or without any answer because it's not real. What's real is your life is created by you. Your belief system outpictures in your world, good news and bad news. What you have in your life is the direct reflection of what you hold in your consciousness and what you expect. The universe meets your expectations every time. And so, what am I going to do this year is I'm going to cut off the emotion from my beliefs. I'm going to quit hating. I'm going to quit being angry. I'm going to quit being fearful. And instead, what I'm going to do is concentrate on the most powerful emotion that I have, which is gratitude and love. I'm going to start looking at all the things in my world that I have to be grateful for, as opposed to looking at the things that I don't. And I'm also not going to hide out. I'm not going to run away. I'm not going to lay down. I'm not going to be quiet. I'm just simply going to be what I was born to be, which is a reflection made in the image and likeness of spirit, infinite intelligence itself. And that's my truth, and it could be yours as well. So I repeat, thank you so much for inviting me here. Thank you so much for having me come and speak. And I will stay around for a few minutes afterwards. If there's any questions, we can talk. I do have to go and pick up my wife. She's doing service here in Kelowna. And I'd like to close now with the treatment. So will you join me? And we'll just breathe into this moment. And what we'll do is we will direct that power within ourselves that maybe we're not always in touch with. So ask right here and right now that we just simply open ourselves. That we allow the past to drift away into the nothingness that it really is. It's only history. And we take a breath and we turn 180 degrees and we look upon the future and we allow that what that is our story. It is our imagination at work in the most wonderful way, creating the form of our experience. And so we allow ourselves to step back from that imagination and enter into the present moment, where all the power of the universe exists. Because without a past and without a future, there is only the perfection of life itself. There is no pain, there is no lack, there is no hate. This is the core of our being. It is the truth of our lives. And we breathe into that, and we rise above that. And I speak my word right here and right now, recognizing, accepting, and knowing that there is God and absolutely nothing else. Embracing that concept that this infinite intelligence that exists throughout all things is indeed infinite. And therefore I cannot be separate from it, and I must be part of it. And in the present moment, without past and without future, there is only the divinity of life itself that resides. And from this seed, only goodness can be created. I speak my word for each and every one of us here and for anyone who is receptive to this idea. I speak my word knowing that from this moment forward, what occurs within each and every one of us is that every time we come in face to face with our stories, that higher power, that greater intelligence operates in a way that it makes it noticeable for us. That we recognize the he, she, they, or what are only reflections of the truth of who we are, which is the love, the light, the joy, the beauty, the power, the prosperity of life itself. We move into 2022 with a recognition and a realization that that infinite intelligence within us operates in such a way that it dissolves and dissipates anything that is unlike itself. We treat knowing that we are aware, we are awake, and we are alert, and that we are open to hear, to feel, and to ingest this idea of love and light. We know that from this moment forward, our lives are changed at depth. That everything and all things that occur to us are recognized for the truth of what they are. We see it clearly, we understand it, we appreciate it. And we know that as we dissolve and dissipate that which is not so, instead we create a void that opens itself and allows and draws to it everything that is required in order to manifest into our lives the reflection of the goodness of life. Therefore, we open ourselves to the wholeness of being, to the energy and vitality of our health, to the perfection of our relationships, to the appreciation of our prosperity, and to an empowerment of the creativity and the personal power that each of us holds and has as our birthright. Accepting this is the truth for me, for you, and for the Center for Spiritual Living of Ukiah. I simply give gratitude that this is so, And I release it back into that universal intelligence, knowing that it must be so. I let go, and I let that intelligence operate and run through me in its perfection. And so with expectation and anticipation of the goodness of life this year, I release this treatment back into that mind, which is all mind, your mind, my mind. And I allow it to be my truth, and I live from it. And so it is.
Thank you, Dr. Kenn. That was so empowering. It was really, truly, I felt it truly in my heart and in my soul. It was beautiful. Thank you for the clarity. The clarity was wonderful. I certainly am going to create my story for 2022. Thank you. And it will look a bit differently after today's services than it did when I started. So thank you so much. It is now time for our offering. Mary, if you could bring that up for us. I'd like to first say how grateful we are for everyone who participates in the prosperity of our church. Mary, can you bring the offering up? I'm not sure if Mary can hear me. I have it somewhere, but I don't have it with me right here on my lap. So let's say together, thank you to everyone. Thank you to the universe for the offerings that are brought from the heart that move us forward. And I know that for myself and for all others present here, the good that goes out today from this offering and from all of the offerings that we take in. I am grateful that this center continues with everyone's support. And for that, I am grateful for all. Release this to the universe, knowing it is so, and so it is. Oh, and there it is. Let's go ahead and say it together. Divine love through me blesses and multiplies this gift. With all my heart and with all my mind, I know that I am saying yes to something I value. With all others present here, we dedicate these gifts to the values and visions we share. Thank you, Mary. I have a couple of announcements. First off, I want to encourage everyone that on the 23rd, we have our annual meeting. Please do your best to try and be there. We're going to be voting on moving forward with Reverend Taggart. Lots of activity happens on the 23rd, but we definitely want your voice in this. So if you can come in person, even better. If you cannot, please definitely Zoom in on that. As usual, we are contributing to building bridges. There is lots of information on Terry's newsletter that you can see all of the ins and outs of that. Next week, our speaker is Reverend Lynn Fritz, and our musician will be Madge Strong. I apologize if there's anything else that I forgot. Thank you again to Dr. Gordon. That was absolutely empowering. And Cricket, if you could now sing us out, that would be wonderful.
Thank you. I added the lyrics in the chat if you want to sing along at home.
Perfect.
I am thankful, so thankful. Ooh, I am thankful, so thankful. Ooh, I am, I am, I am. I am, I am. am joyful, so joyful. Ooh, I am joyful, so joyful. Ooh, I am, I am, I am. I am, I am, I am. I am so joyful. I am thankful, so thankful. Ooh, I am thankful, so thankful. Ooh, I am, I am, I am. I am, I am, I am. I am so joyful.
Beautiful, Cricket. Thank you so much. Thank you to all of you who have participated in this wonderful Sunday service. If you'd like to stay around for a little while after Mary turns off the recording, we'd love to hear from you. Have a wonderful day. Namaste.